This is Bad Movies We Love, part of the Shice Podcast Network.
If you're listening to this, you are the resistance.
Hello, Bad Movie lovers, and welcome back to Bad Movies We Love. I am your host,
the master
Nick
of
Shice.
this stupid stuff.
We have got some very stupid stuff on deck for you today as we close out February with a double header. Yes, this was very ambitious, but what happened was I overbooked for the month of February. And I ended up having a lot more movies and a lot more volunteers than I usually would for a regular release schedule. Episodes of The Resistance Frontlines, members-only shows, Bad Movie Futures, and Bimon Sci-Fi-Con both had slight delays. So rather than put it in the vault and just wait until I have an opportunity, I decided to just lay it all out there right now. Why not? The more the merrier, I say. And in that spirit, I was joined by a new guest. Everett from Watch This Film joins the show, and I was ecstatic because I finally get the chance to celebrate Quentin Dupieux's Rubber from 2010. What the fuck is going on? What is happening?
Let's go.
Is it the tire that is the hurdle? You hear the movie is about a tire named Robert that has telekinesis, and you're just like, I can't.
When you watch the movie with somebody who's like, I don't want to watch this, it's like, yes, you get it.
He's like, watch my movie, but actively angry at me at the same time.
Maybe we're both just dumbasses. Maybe we're just dumbasses.
Okay, calm down, buddy. I know you just learned telekinesis, but you don't have to blow up everything.
Blowing up the head of a mannequin really leans into that B-movie kind of vibe, right?
If absurdist art is not your cup of tea, then this is going to be like really offensively bad to you. And so, okay, it is what it is.
You probably never gave it a thought, but all great films, without exception, contain an important element of no reason. And you know why? Because life itself is filled with no reason. Why can't we see the air all around us? No reason. Why are we always thinking? No reason. Why do some people love sausages and other people hate sausages? No fucking reason.
Come on, don't waste your time explaining that garbage. Let's go.
Just a minute, let me finish. Ladies, gentlemen, the film you are about to see today is an homage to the no reason. That most powerful element of style.
Welcome back to Bad Movies We Love. I'm joined today by Everett, the creator of Watch This Film blog, where he counts down the 1,000 greatest movies of all time according to his own special formula. He loves talking all things film and has been known to host movie acting and directing tournaments on his Filmstagram account. He also enjoys catching movies with his wife and daughter and is a self-proclaimed jack of all trades when it comes to nerdy topics. Everett, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks, Nick. I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me. Excited for it.
Super excited for it. I mean, this is one of those movies where it's kind of just like been on my to-do list for a long time. Just haven't sort of gotten the timing right up until now. But since you're the guest of honor, why don't you do the honors and tell the people what we're talking about?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I'm glad we could make it happen. This is Rubber, 2010 English language French independent absurdist horror comedy film, written and directed by Quentin Dupieux, according to its Wikipedia page. This movie is wild and crazy. I don't even think calling all the different monikers that we that the internet tried to give it there quite do it justice. It is a comedy, yes. It is splatter horror, yes. There's some like noir elements. There's some Tarantino in here. There's some like Monty Python breaking of the fourth wall going on. It's a little bit of everything, and it's a much better time than the reviews would maybe lead you to believe, at least from my from where I sit. So I'm excited to dive into it and talk about it.
Yeah, that's a fair assessment. I am also excited. As you mentioned, Dupieux wrote and directed. He also did the editing and the cinematography, also involved in the soundtrack. This movie stars, coincidentally enough, Steven Spinella for like the third movie in a row that I've talked about.
Let's go.
He was also in Virtuosity and Ravenous, which were like two very recent recordings. I'm like, what the hell? This is season 5. This guy's never popped up in any movie until now, and I can't get rid of him all of a sudden. So
you'll love to see it. Now you just got to do Lincoln, right?
Does that count? It's probably a little bit too good for this show.
I think it's a good movie that people hate, maybe.
Oh, yeah. That's what people want to do on this show a lot. They're like, oh, I could talk shit about that movie. I'm like, well, that's not what we do here.
Right.
I'm glad that you're so excited, but yeah, this is bad movies we love. But this also stars Roxane Mesquida, Wings Hauser in one of his final roles, and then also supporting roles from Jack Plotnick, David Bowe, and James Parks. So a pretty good cast, given the fact that it is an English language, French production, indie film, as you mentioned. And just looking at its categories here, it's listed as B-horror, dark comedy, dark fantasy, parody, comedy, fantasy, horror. So I think a lot of that is like overlap. Yeah. But I think what stood out to me the most was maybe fantasy in this description, because I'm like, okay, I kind of get it in some ways, because I guess the way I rationalize that is that I can envision Robert the tire as maybe somebody who was cursed by a witch to spend the rest of his life as a sentient telekinetic tire. And I guess I never just like framed it as that being like a fantasy device, because for me, I was like, this is sci-fi. There was some experiment that went wrong that turned him into a tire, right? And so I think looking at it, it's probably fantasy is a better descriptor than sci-fi, but it still has a lot of like sci-fi elements. Telekinesis, I'm going to go on the record and say that's a sci-fi element.
Absolutely. Telekinesis, 100%. Like when they're correcting the kid, it's like, it's psychokinetic or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a sci-fi trope, but we never get the explanation. So I guess that's what makes it fantasy, right? That it's just there. It exists. No reason, right?
Yes, that is the moniker of the film, or at least the modus operandi of this film is the thesis of no reason filmmaking. And Dupieux is an absurdist filmmaker, and so I like the idea that he's toying with the notion of a movie without reason, and that the great movies have things happen for no reason. But then the examples he gives of that are not good examples, which is fantastic, because it's like undoing the thesis in real time while still committing very heavily to it. And so as like a filmmaker artist in the way that he is, he has to do this kind of stuff in order to, I think, like fulfill the challenges that he presents himself when making a film. And I need to watch more of them, because I've seen maybe like 5 of his movies, but I love all of them because they're just insane. They make crazy choices. A lot of it doesn't make sense, but I'm laughing along the whole time. A lot of them are gross too. So I just have so much fun watching him like put his work together. I don't know about you. Are you a big fan of his? Was this like your introduction point to him?
So this was my introduction to him, and I've like been aware of his other stuff like Reality is one of those that's been on my list, but I've never gotten around to it. But I enjoy like the kind of absurdist, tongue-in-cheek kind of energy that he brings to Rubber. And so I would guess that, especially now that I'm revisiting Rubber, I probably need to get back around to his stuff. Because I think that's very much up my alley of kind of the crazy, the stuff that I watch on my own that I don't necessarily introduce everybody else to.
There was one that came out recently. It was a horror comedy kind of with a giant brain. It wasn't his, but it felt very much like his. Rumors, with Kate Blanchett and Charles Dance and a
Yes.
pretty good international cast. And I saw that and I was like, yes, we need more of this weird, satirical, absurdist kind of filmmaking that just likes to dive into insane premises and not really care about feeling the need to explain yourself.
Right.
And that's a thing that this movie likes to do, is not really give an explanation for itself. I know that's something that Dupieux himself was not really interested in examining with the story, but the script went through some different iterations before it got to its final premise. So it's not like he does this haphazardly, right? Like he
Right.
actually thinks about what he's doing here, and he thinks about the themes that he wants to use and how to apply those themes. And I'm going to dedicate a little bit of time later to speak more specifically to that. But the reason that this movie actually ended up making the cut for the show is because it scored well enough. So let's go to the tail of the tape.
Let's do it.
And that would give us an IMDb score of 5.7. It has a Metascore of 59. It has a Rotten Tomatoes critic score of 66, an audience score of 46. Letterboxd has it at a 2.9, so it's a 58 out of 100. And then Google has a thumbs up rating of 67%. So it gets us in just under the wire at 58.3 out of 100. And while movies that tend to score in this range, I think, are movies that are polarizing. And so it's people hate it or people love it. And the in-between sort of just doesn't care enough about it to have an opinion on the movie. And so this is one of those movies. It's not quite in like the super sweet spot where it's like, yeah, this is a bad movie. I know it's bad, right?
Right.
Like, this movie has elements of a bad movie, but also has a ton of like thought and creativity went into this movie. And like I said, it doesn't wield its premise haphazardly. It doesn't tackle the themes that it wants to tackle in just a careless manner. So to me, I'm like, I can't just like throw the baby out with the bathwater and say that this is a bad movie. I think this is actually a good movie that people tend not to like for plenty of, I think, valid reason. How about you?
Yeah, like I think what you're saying, right? That no reason doesn't necessarily mean unintentional, right? And there is an intentionality to this movie that I think endears it to me when I've watched it. The way that opening monologue is just so ridiculous because you immediately are like, no, there was a reason, like, right? And even that is getting you to think, right? It's that absurdism. But I think there are absolutely plenty of valid reasons that people probably would not like this. Part of it is because I think one way you could potentially describe this movie, if you wanted to like simplify it, is it's either a really dumb smart people movie or a really smart dumb people movie. But because of that, it's not going to make either of those camps as happy as they want to be, right? The people who just want B horror are like, man, why are you doing all this fourth wall breaks? Why are we talking about no reason? Why are we talking about what the movies are? I want to see a tire blowing people up with its mind, right? And the people who are like, man, I want a smart movie are like, yeah, give me more of this. Give me more of this fourth wall breaking stuff. Like, the tire break. What's with the ending? Why did we do that? Like, why did we go full absurdist with it by the time we're all said and done, right? What's with the third act? To use the criticism term, right?
I mean, I think that's fair.
Yeah. Like there are issues obviously with the story in places, and like some of the jumps that it makes, but it's probably a valid critique, right? Like, hey, we go like full, like we're doing this like kind of plotting thing, and then we get to the final act and suddenly it speeds up. We fast forward and we're doing all these other things, and introducing new rules for the horror and everything. So that can be upsetting for people who want something maybe a little bit more conventional. And I think that's also why like an absurdist filmmaker isn't going to make something that's going to be 65 plus score, right?
Yeah. It's far enough away from convention where, yeah, the sort of traditional B horror lovers are going to be like, this didn't, it's boring, I saw someone say. And I'm like, well, I don't think so. But if your commentary is that like, hey, there's not enough of the tire blowing things up, I'm like, okay, maybe there's a little bit too much townspeople and too much sidetracking from the slashery elements of a movie like this. And okay, I understand that. I want to believe that it is a dumb movie for smart people, but maybe it is a smart movie for dumb people. I don't know. Maybe I'm a dumbass and I just like seeing Robert go on a killing spree. But I feel like there's so much more to the character of Robert than like this murderous thing. And like Dupieux understood that too when going through the writing phase, going through the rewriting phase, going through the footage phase, and seeing like what he had there. And I know that he took it seriously and wanted to deliver more than sort of like a black and white evil character. And so I think his awareness of like the slasher genre and how stuff that comes out of sort of B horror is like, hey, here's the villain. It's a monster. It's a guy with a knife. There is like, you know, the Jasons and the Michael Myers of like, it is sort of just like a plotting evil that you can slow it down, but it's always going to continue. And so I think his awareness of the genre allowed him to craft something with the narrative here for the character that I found particularly interesting in this watch that was maybe more engaging than a lot of the other things. I was always fascinated by the stylistic choices and the very practical approach to the special effects as much as possible. And just the notion of like, how do you give a tire a personality? Like, how do you build an entire character and an entire story around this? And so that is like the central challenge of the film. And I enjoy watching Dupieux sort of like work the Rubik's Cube of trying to figure out like, how do we make this work? And whether or not it's ultimately like a great success or not, I kind of don't even care because I find the problem solving to be the interesting part of the film.
Yeah, that opening bit where we're just following the tire through the desert as it's kind of like learning to walk, right? As Robert's learning about its powers and testing things, and we start to see a little bit of like motivation and like, yeah, it does just kind of want to blow things up and roll over stuff. But also it's kind of endearing because it's kind of cute and the way it rolls around and wanders and meanders and it hits something and it's like, we've got to get up and move. And there's like, it's one of those like when as humans we see something that is like less capable than us. And so like we feel for it in a way, right? Like we can't fully hate it, right? We can't fully attribute evil to it. It would be like if a really nice dog was suddenly imbued with telekinetic powers and was blowing people's heads off. You're still like, but it's a puppy though. But it's a dog.
Yeah, right. I know. I was thinking it's sort of like a baby. Like if this movie had a killer baby, would people be more receptive to the ideas that it's laying down? Is it the tire that is the hurdle? You hear the movie is about a tire named Robert that has telekinesis, and you're just like, I can't. Right?
I say that to my wife, and she's like, "Why are you talking about this movie?"
Because it's awesome. Yes,
I love it.
And tell her you found somebody else that love it, and then we're gonna put it into the universe, and more people are gonna hear about it and love it with us. But let's set the table here for the people who are like, "Why are you talking about this stupid movie?" This, as we said, is a 2010 absurdist horror film written and directed by Quentin Dupieux that leans heavily into the idea that movies don't always need a reason. The story centers on Robert, a sentient tire that discovers it has psychokinetic powers, including the ability to make things, including people's heads, explode, and he goes on a killing spree in the California desert. So creating a believable killer tire was trickier than it sounds. Most of Robert's movements were achieved through practical effects using remotes, but Dupieux has said that the tire's literal emptiness made it very difficult to hide any kind of remote mechanics. So while practical effects were used initially for a lot of the stuff, and even were attempted for a lot of the decapitations, I'll call them, Dupieux was unhappy with the final results, and a lot of those moments were touched up with CGI. The film's famously meta structure begins with Lieutenant Chad, Steven Spinella, delivering a monologue about how events in movies, often happen for no reason. Dupieux included that speech deliberately, admitting that he had no interest in explaining how the tire came to life, despite knowing audiences might expect that setup, and that self-aware tone emerged organically, in part because Dupieux grew bored writing a straightforward killer tire movie. He's also said the idea was influenced by a real-life experience where he snuck into an empty theater during a screening of his earlier film Steak, an unsettling moment where he found out that there was nobody else in the theater. So he snuck in, was sort of like very aware of his own observation of his film. And that fed directly into Rubber's themes of sort of spectatorship and meaning in filmmaking. So Rubber premiered on May 15th, 2010 at Cannes during Critics Week, where it quickly drew attention for its audacity, and then Magnet Releasing acquired it for distribution shortly after. And at Toronto's After Dark Film Festival, where audience reactions were sharply divided, Fangoria famously noted that Rubber generated both huge laughs and applause, and the only boos heard during the entire festival. The film ended up getting released on DVD, and the soundtrack came out in March of 2011 with DVD and Blu-ray editions following in June of that year, cementing Rubber's reputation as one of the most aggressively strange and polarizing cult films of the 2010s. So quite a lot of meat on the bone there. I mean, I can imagine Dupieux being like, hey, I'm going to sneak into the theater and see how the audiences are reacting to my movie. And then it's like, oh, there's nobody here. This is
nobody's reacting to my movie.
Yeah, this is super humbling because now I'm the audience for my own movie. And I'm also very aware that there is no audience maybe for this movie, at least not in the way that you would hope as a filmmaker. And so that sort of internal monologue like spills over into what he wants to do with this film. And there is like a push and pull between the audience that's watching the film. We're watching the audience that's watching what is told to them to be a film. And so like, not only are you breaking the fourth wall during the movie, you're sort of like removing the audience from its natural seat and sort of making us observe the audience who is observing the thing. And then even that, like, there's sort of like some theater etiquette jokes in there about like behavior and talking and stuff like that. And so I think it's very well articulated in terms of what he actually wants to do with that hierarchy of narrative structures. And for me, I found it to be like very, very enjoyable in like a strange, almost like voyeuristic way. And I think that is intentional because obviously as people that like this film, we want to sit back and be like, yeah, we think it's good. Here's the reasons that it's good. But also like we're watching an audience actively be like, no, this movie's bad for these reasons. And so it's like a very, very unique experience, but it is, it's one that even if you end up hating the movie, I think like I would have to recommend trying it because of what the movie's attempting to do. And he's got another one that's sort of in a similar vein of like the audience behavior with Yannick, which is, I think it's like a 50-minute film that came out a couple years ago. One of my favorite movies from a few years ago, just like insane, very bold in its approach to like how the characters interact with the thing that they're watching.
Amazing. Yeah, there's like that, like you also get some of the filmmakers' hostility toward the audience too, right? Of like actively trying to kill the audience and
poison them.
Yeah. And so there's like that level to it too, of like how much of that was also influenced by him going into an empty theater and being like, well, screw these guys, then I'm gonna make something where I get to kill them all off in the next one. And then also like the fact that the audience has binoculars, right, and that's how they're viewing the film, gets at that like kind of voyeuristic sense of,
Yeah.
and especially when Robert starts following, what's her name, Sheila around, right? There's like an added level of voyeur to that. But
Yeah,
it
it's
is
like
kind of fun to be an audience of an audience, I think.
yeah, I mean,
If that
like,
makes sense.
well, I don't want to say it's like perverted to watch this movie because
No.
it's not, but it's like we're sort of observing people enjoying the Peeping Tom experience, which, yeah, it's weird. Like, that's all I can say is that it's weird, and you kind of just have to embrace the fact that like the whole experience of watching the movie is going to be weird. You may hate it by the end of it, but it does a lot of interesting things, and it does a lot of things that I don't see a lot of other movies like even attempting to do at this point. So I think it has plenty of value, sort of like in a abstract concept, like whether or not it scores high or scores low. I feel like the movie has value, and there's definitely people that hate it, and we'll probably hear from some of those critics when we arrive at Critics Corner. But we're not going to do that right now. Right
No.
now, we're going to do haikus.
Let's go.
Do you have a synopsis haiku ready to go?
I do have a synopsis haiku ready to go.
Well, do you
I
want to
had
go
to.
first since you're the guest here, or do you want me to go first?
Sure, yeah, I can go first.
All right.
I had
I
to
like it.
kind of go back and forth on whether I was gonna try to throw a country accent on tire to make it one syllable. But we're going with two. So here we go. Mind powered tire. Movie within a movie. Spectators dying.
Very good. Very good. I'm proud of you for going first. That's a bold choice always.
You know,
First time on
sometimes
the
you just
show,
gotta send it.
just gotta send it. Hit send. It's like when I accidentally type beast on my send off on emails. I'm trying to say best and it says beast regards. I'm like, oops.
Hey,
All right, well,
yo.
they know me as the beast now. So okay. Let's see. What did I get here? Okay. Who cares for reason? A lonely tire on the road. Don't make Robert bad.
Excellent.
He does get a little testy there. I mean,
It
because
does.
I feel like,
Especially,
yeah.
yeah.
Towards the end, I think he has, maybe he has good reason at the end,
Mhm.
and it works its way towards that. But before we sort of get to that crescendo, I just want to say like its presence as like a toddler, an infant, a dog, whatever, something that has intelligence but is learning to be sentient. You see both a kind of destructive appetite from him, right?
Yeah.
Also in learning to walk and be upright, and then first coming across the little bottle that he
Mhm.
crunches on is like, hey, I'm powerful. I can crush this thing in my path. Then he runs into a glass bottle, and it's the frustration of not being able to break the glass bottle that then triggers the psychokinesis.
Mhm.
So it's coming from a moment of frustration, which you will see with a toddler, where
Yeah.
they don't get the thing that they want and they throw a tantrum, right? And so I sort of equated it to that, and I almost let it be forgivable for that reason. And then, yeah, he starts basically, exploding everything that he comes across in a little
Mhm.
bit indiscriminate manner, which is like, okay, calm down, buddy. I know you just learned telekinesis, but you don't have to blow up everything that you see. And so that is where we start walking the line between actually designing a character for Robert versus it being a Michael Myers like figure that is sort of like a stalking thing that just keeps moving. And then like I think even some of those themes are still applied here
Mhm.
as we get to the end, which we'll talk about a little bit as well. But you have a killer tire in premise, right? I don't think there's
Right.
any way that you can escape that. But this isn't a tire that even is like, it's not a monster truck tire, right? It's not like
Mm-mm.
it's not running people down. It's not rolling people over. There's not really a lot in terms of chase scenes, even. This is a
No.
very sort of methodical, antithetical approach to how you might conceive of a killer tire, right? Like, why give it telekinesis with all the other options that you have. So I feel like giving it a personality and giving it the will to destroy something in a very sort of different graphic way, you know, it does something for the character that I think we maybe wouldn't have achieved if it were just a large tire flattening people.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Like I think like if it was a monster truck tire, even like the big tractor tire, right? That gets resurrected later on. It doesn't feel quite so power, right? Like you don't get the moment where it gets yeeted out of the room, where it falls into the pool and starts drowning. Doesn't start. The tires need to breathe. Does it? It's just stuck.
A good question. It drinks water kind of
Yeah,
earlier in the
there.
movie.
Yes, you get that moment, and yeah, I think it's not. It works because the tire isn't scary, but
Yeah.
its powers are scary, right?
Yeah.
Like its motivation seems to be a little bit frightening, and what it can do with that motivation
Yeah,
definitely.
a good point. I had mentioned the baby thing earlier, and it's
Mhm.
like, there's been a lot of movies with like scary kids,
Yeah.
Children of the Corn, The Omen, Brightburn, like stuff,
Mhm.
there's a lot of reasons where you could be like, oh, a child can emote in a way that
Yeah.
makes it frightening. And I think even with a dog, with something like Cujo, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
That's all sort of practical effects. There's no CGI like in a Resident Evil where you have zombie dogs or something like that.
Yeah.
Um, so to have it be a tire to where like you literally can't have the thing express
Mhm.
anything, you really have to work hard on all of the other areas of like how you're going to depict any emotion. And so, like you said, it comes off as this sort of non-threatening thing that just is like out of place all the time.
Yeah.
And so if you don't know to be scared of it, you're not scared of it. And then the movie spends a lot of its runtime being like, well, these are the reasons why you should be scared of it. So
Mhm.
even that dynamic within the film is playing with the notion of like being afraid of something you're not supposed to be afraid of. And then people who aren't afraid of it sort of disrespecting it. And then we as the audience get to see why that person should have been afraid of it. And so it does have a very like cursed object type of
Mhm.
feel to it. Like, what is the Needful Things, the Stephen King
I think
story,
that's
right? Yeah.
yeah,
And
that's
so like
right.
every item has like a weird curse to it. And so it's like that. Oh, we got this thing from a thrift shop, and then it just sits in our house, but like bad things start happening around
Yeah.
it. And so that notion very much leans into the horror elements of this film. That's why I was like, I feel confident saying that this ultimately would qualify as a horror movie, despite the fact that it is very satirical. It is very, very funny in moments when it wants to be, including like the very first scene in the movie. The car is driving up to the audience, knocking down
Knocking
every
down the
chair.
chairs.
Not trying to drive through them, intentionally knocking each of them down, and then you have someone in the audience very quickly go like, "Hey, why did you destroy all those chairs? Like we could have sat in
We could have
those."
said those. It's just
It lets you know what kind of movie it is, I
Mhm.
think, right off the bat, and I think that is good. I mean, we have the main character, well, not the kind of the sheriff. He
Mhm.
climbs out of the trunk of the car, delivers his monologue that is not necessarily accurate, gets lectured by the guy driving the car, like, don't waste your time with these idiots, and then gets back in the trunk to drive away. So we're shown very, very quickly that sort of every logical choice that you would expect the movie to make is in jeopardy in this
Yes.
film. And I think that's the important part is like you have to expect sort of the unexpected in this. And there's not going to be any hand holding. You got to be on board. And I think that's why I said like it feels like an experience type of film.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, before we take a look back at the trailer and see what was going on there, I know we talked about it a little bit, but if you had to speculate as to why people would generally say that this is a bad movie, what do you think that reason would be?
Yeah, I think probably different people do have different reasons. I think part of it is there are probably some people who want to dismiss it as B horror and want to dismiss the genre of B horror as a whole as something that is just like not as good, not as legitimate, which is a bad take. But there are going to be people who are going to say that, and we're going to stand by that, and probably will never end up watching this film anyway, or who watch it with a preconceived notion and never want to have their mind changed. I also think there are some people who are like, this, it's too complex. The plot is a little convoluted, and like the rules seem to be changing over time. And like, what is the reason for it all? And kind of maybe come away a little frustrated at the end. Because again, they probably don't necessarily want something absurdist, right? In a B horror movie. You want something that is, here's the monster, here it comes, it's coming, it kills us, we fight back, and either it's dead at the end or it's not, but there's at least a little bit of a resolution beyond staring down the Hollywood sign with a bunch of tires. But I think it's probably either the resolution or and like the ridiculous nature of the absurdity of it, or the fact that it is a B movie. But I think I disagree with both of those. I mean, obviously, right? This is bad movies we love, but
well, I mean, there are definitely movies that we talk about on the show where it's like, no, this is a bad movie, but whatever. I can have fun and enjoy the schlockiness of it anyway. And then there's shades of gray, of course, along the way. And I think this one landing where it did on the scoring metrics sort of told me that it's going to be polarizing. And at least from what I could gather from some of the comments that I glanced at when reading about the movie and seeing people's opinions on the movie, what I said earlier about my enjoyment from the film comes from the puzzle solving, or in this case, watching the filmmaker try to solve the puzzle of how to tell this story. I find that fascinating, and it's engaging for me. And for a lot of people, it's not. And we see that with the built-in audience in the film, that there's one guy who is plugged in and is like, I'm fascinated. I'm interested in what's going on. Everybody else is like, whatever, wake us up when something happens, right? So I think Dupieux is well aware of the fact that most people are not going to be engaging with this material on the level of the single guy, excuse me, who is locked in the entire time, doesn't sleep, doesn't eat. He's just watching the whole thing play out because he's very intrigued by it. And so I feel in that way, it's like, I'm that guy in the chair because I want to see what happens. I don't even care whether or not you would say it's boring, right? Like, that's not the part of the movie that is interesting to me. So yeah, I think people probably just generally don't like it because, you have to work a little bit for this movie. And, most people don't want to work when you watch a movie. You want to put a movie on. You don't want to have to do all of the work that is being done in the process of interacting with this film. But I think that's the thing that made it stand out to me, that made me really love it, and that made me circle back to it and jump on the opportunity when you mentioned it. I was like, no, this is finally the time. Yeah, it's here.
Do you think him being in a wheelchair has any bearing on the choice to make? Right, like the fact that he's got wheels, like he knows tires a little bit more.
Yeah,
do you think that was part of why that choice was made to, or like went into the creation of that character? Is like, we've got to have him in a wheelchair? Or do you think
that's a good,
it just happened that way, or do you think there's no reason?
That's a good question. There may be no reason, but I feel like that premise doesn't necessarily hold up under too much scrutiny, because obviously Dupieux is really doing this with, I think, a lot of reasons, but he's eliminating certain stable and traditional reasons from his process. So I don't know that it was like, this guy has to be in a wheelchair, but I think it's funny that there is some symmetry between a guy in a wheelchair. It's like, you're on like a California desert mountainside. Like, this is not a conducive place for your method of transport, right? And so putting him there and sort of having him be immobile, but then he's watching the journey of this other wheeled entity sort of live in this way. I think, yeah, there probably is something there. And, I'd have to watch it again and maybe like dig more into some of the interviews. But even the interview, which I will put a link for in the show notes for this, there's an interview with Dupieux. It's like 8 minutes long, but he's talking to a blow-up doll.
Amazing.
A sex doll, blow-up doll.
Yeah.
And his answers are played in reverse, I believe. So it's so I was like, that is the kind of sort of person that's making the movie. And so, like, if you can step far enough back to be like, hey, I'm accepting of absurdist filmmaking, then you can, I think, enter into the sphere where all of this stuff is funny and it starts to make sense in a way that only these kinds of movies can. But yeah, if absurdist art is not your cup of tea, then this is going to be like really offensively bad to you. And so,
yeah,
okay, it is what it is. But if you're willing, take a chance. All right, let's look at that trailer. Before we get to the trailer, it's time for a quick commercial from the multiverse. When rubber meets the road, the last thing you want is an issue with your tires. And despite our best efforts, no amount of wishful thinking is going to fix that. That's why the team at Oizo Tires developed the all-new, all-weather, all-terrain, never flat tires. Developed at a secret facility in the California desert, the new Never Flats were rigorously tested on a group of unsuspecting observers. The new patented sentient rubber tech means your tires do the thinking for you. Micro adjustments to climate, road condition, even punctures. And the results were so overwhelmingly positive, it actually made some heads explode. Imagine being able to purchase one tire that will literally follow you without fear wherever you go. Who wouldn't want that? So when you need a new tire or just peace of mind, choose Oizo and let these tires give you a piece of theirs. And now, back to the show.
This is absolutely the first time I've ever seen this trailer.
It came up a couple times when I was trying to find the movie, and I was just like, make sure you don't watch it so that you can watch it for the first time here.
R.I.P. the crow.
Which is on that poster on my my background. Soundtrack is really good for this movie,
it's,
I gotta say.
Jams.
Very on point. It does a lot of work for, I think, giving Robert a personality as well.
It makes that opening sequence work really well.
Yeah, okay, there's gonna be some intensity here.
Everybody, this is what our killer looks like.
Tired.
Maybe we'll hear from LA Weekly during Critics Corner.
Hey,
What brand of tire?
Yeah, so Robert's a little bit of a
Probably
pervert.
grand.
yeah. Rip.
Roger Corman by way of Samuel Beckett. Some good pull quotes,
Yes.
at least.
Is it black?
Love that line. It's a good line.
I'm starting to like it.
Meanwhile, that guy's got an alligator
just open.
stuffed animal he's carrying
Be a
with him all
good
over the
boy.
place.
Blow my head off.
Again.
You get one of you guys with a flamethrower, just
And then you have the audience member being like, here's all the ways you could have made your movie better.
Anybody there?
Yep.
In talking to a lot of the filmmakers I've talked to on this show, like,
Weirdos.
they're aware of that commentary that exists.
Yeah.
I'm sure I've given some of that when doing this show. I know I
Oh,
did it
for
in
sure.
the last episode.
Yeah. That's a good last shot for the trailer.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
blowing up the head of a mannequin really.
Yeah, and for the most part, like the actual like explosions look good.
Yeah, they did a good job, I think.
The editing is very well done, so that it's like it looks as good as it can look without it sort of getting overly graphic.
Yeah.
So it doesn't like stray into like NC-17 type of gore territory. It's like it doesn't butter its bread in the gore department where
Right.
I think there is I don't know, I wouldn't say like subgenre, but there is definitely a part of the horror community. I mean, you see it in Terrifier, we saw it in A Violent Nature. Like the thing about the movie is sort of like its gore element and like how much and how
much blood there. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And so this is a movie that doesn't try to make its name on gore. It's really trying to make its name on like how do you fuel this narrative. And I think that's really where the movie I think stands out amongst other B horror movies. And so, you know, we had a chance to look at the trailer. We got a little glimpse of like how it was sold. And I think honestly, a fairly good trailer if you can buy into the premise. You know, it tells you that it's a killer tire. It tells you that it's ridiculous. We see some stuff explode. If that's enough to get you on board, which it definitely was for me, then this is the movie for you. But when this movie comes right out and says things happen for no reason, do you think the movie believes that? Or is it actually sort of baiting the audience to then keep searching for meaning in this film anyway?
I think it has to be baiting. Like I think the monologue itself, the fact that a lot of the things that he says happen for no reason in these other movies, like have very clear, defined reasons within the world of those films, right? Asks you to be like, okay, so then what is the reason for this film? And I think there are some things in the movie that have no right. Like he said, I didn't want to explain why the tire had psychokinetic powers, and I think that's fine, right? That's one of those things that you could explain away with no reason, and that's okay. But I think there are things that happen in the film, like we've already kind of referenced to, that Dupieux put in there for a reason. And there is a lot of intentionality to this film. And right, like even what we're seeing of the audience and the sheriff and their interplay, the human part of the movie is also very intentional, right? There is intention to what the sheriff / director produce. Like, what is his role in the film?
That's a good question.
Also, I guess lead actor. But like what he's doing is clearly intentional. Moments that feel unintentional, like a turkey suddenly showing up in that dude's room. I was like, what is about to go down?
Yeah.
And then, but there's reason for it, right?
There is.
And does it all have to be a reason that we accept or that we would necessarily come to as like rational people in the world that we live in? Maybe not, but I think in the film, everyone does have at least some reason for what they do.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. And I know that he's playing with the idea of no reason more than he's championing that this film is solely reasonless, right?
Yeah.
And we talked a little bit about Robert's depiction as both his iteration when he's sort of first introduced to us and sort of the notion of evil in his presence, but do you view Robert as a villain here, as a victim, or just kind of like an animal? I mean, like a dog. And does how you view Robert change how responsible the movie feels for how it depicts violence?
Yeah, I think the first time I watched it, I wanted to view Robert as like an anti-hero, because I was like probably 19 years old. I was just like, oh yeah, violence, man, movies. I love Tarantino, right? Like, and like obviously
he's just lonely.
Yeah, he's just lonely. And I'm like, now I watch it as like a 30-year-old man, and I'm like, is Robert an incel? Right.
Yeah.
Do I go down? Is the tire a peeping Tom? Are like, but and so I think if you view it as like clearly it has some form of agency, right? Because it
Yes.
chooses to roll back over the glass bottle and then has to decide, hey, I got ran over by this guy in a truck, so I'm going to blow his head up. So there is some agency there, but is it just the agency of something that has a capability and is acting on like a emotion, whim, or is there I don't know, a little bit more to it? And because of that, right, like then you get into the depiction of like the violence that is not nearly as gory as a lot of your more like gore horror kind of genre films get, but like still does have exploding heads and viscera on cameras. And I think if you watch it as like, hey, this is an anti-hero, then it does kind of become a little bit problematic of like, oh, hey, are you celebrating the fact that this guy's just like killing anyone who wrongs him? Right. If we're giving him that much agency. But if we're watching it more as a like, hey, this is like, wouldn't it be funny if a tire rolled around and could blow people's heads up? It feels less problematic because we're not putting ourselves necessarily in the shoes of the tire.
Yeah, and I think that's where part of the notion for like removing the reason of why the tire exists is important because I had already been like, oh, I could see this as science fiction because like an experiment went wrong and then like you put a guy's mind inside this tire, or he was a telepath or something and he put himself inside the tire, or it is a dark fantasy where this is like he was cursed by a witch kind of thing to live as this tire. And so like I'm creating explanations to sort of make Robert maybe more palatable. But in sort of watching just solely the behavior, it was like, killed a cleaning lady indiscriminately, sort of for no real reason, killed anybody that you come across that you just weren't feeling. Like, he let the kid live, so it's like, okay, he's not going to kill a kid. But, like, if you were to play out logically what was happening, like, what is the end game of Robert with Sheila? Right? Like what is going to happen there? If you put a man in that role who's like peeping Tom, stalker, the end game of that is not a good one. And it's
very sinister, right?
Yes, and it's probably more sinister than anything that actually happens in this movie. So I think definitely removing reason from Robert's existence gives you a little bit more like carte blanche to experiment with stuff. And it does sort of put the audience in a place where, the first time I saw this was 2010, 2011. So I was in my mid to early 20s. And it's like, hey, look at this, like, tire who just woke up and he's pissed at the world and he's going to destroy everything in his way. Like, that's kind of funny and like quirky and eccentric.
Yeah.
And maybe I'm cheering for Robert. And then watching it now, like in my 40s, I'm like, oh, Robert's a pervert. And maybe we shouldn't give him the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
Like, I understand why he does the things that he does to some degree, but at the end of the day, those are, I think, not good acts.
No, those are not decisions that you should make if you have free will, right?
Yeah. And so when we get to the end, there's still a couple more questions I want to get into, but we're talking about the end here. And so what we see is like Robert's already gone on a killing spree. And then we see he rolls by a junkyard where they're just burning tires indiscriminately. And at that point, it's sort of, I don't know, like it reignites justification for his behavior because he's already affronted at the world for just like existing, which again, when you remove reason, you can't sort of apply logic or justification in that situation. But then, he's a tire. He sees other tires just being burned. And then off screen, we get like a multi-day homicidal rampage where he kills like everybody in the town.
Yeah.
And then they find him watching NASCAR. So it's just like this weird sort of like full circle moment where even though I do kind of understand why an angry, murderous telekinetic tire would go on a killing spree after watching all of his tire brothers just be murdered, it's still like, oh yeah, he's the bad guy.
Yeah. And there is like something to that moment where it's like up to that point, it's kind of felt like he sees himself as human or like close to human. And suddenly he sees the tires being burned. He's a tire, right? And his motivations become, my people have been wronged, right?
There is a moment where he's like right before he interacts with the kid, I think, because he doesn't realize the kid's there. He's looking in the mirror. And so he's like first observing, he's like, oh, I'm a tire.
Yeah.
So he's like becoming self-aware in that moment of like, what am I? And then the kid kind of spooks him and he rolls out of there.
Falls in. Yeah.
Yeah.
That is. Yeah, it's really interesting.
Well, yeah, because it's like, you know, when you think of like we're getting like way deep into the weeds, but like when you think of sentience, right? Like our friends that we're very close with, they just had a baby. And so like, you know, I'm interacting with a 6-month-old a lot and like watching him begin to like make associations and understand his place in the world. Like I don't know if he's at the point yet where he can sort of get beyond like, these are familiar things to me versus like, oh, I'm a individual person. And so to see sort of like Robert's learning curve accelerated from like, I'm awake to I'm learning to walk, and then I'm like processing the world and my abilities, and then I'm seeing people, right? I'm seeing cars, I'm seeing humans, I'm seeing animals, and then when I see myself in the mirror, I'm none of those things. And so it is like the first moment of self-awareness for Robert, and then sees the tires burning and is like, oh, these are my people. So it's completely possible that like he thinks all other tires are sentient.
Yeah.
And so like, hey, this is a huge genocide being committed against my people by humans, and then goes on the rampage. Like he doesn't understand his place in the world. And again, so that brings in the sort of like the question of things happening without reason. And so we get some reason. Like I understand if he misinterpreted what was happening there and thinking like, hey, this is a huge like bonfire of my kind.
This is a mass murder. This is genocide.
And then so he's gonna, you know, seek payback on the people that did it. Totally get that. But then him, like the movie doesn't get into enough of how he sees himself, right? They give us like a little glimpse. Obviously, I'm sort of extrapolating quite a bit here based on
for sure,
the one scene that we saw. But that's what makes this movie interesting to me is like these small touches. And so with the inclusion of the audience, right? What is the movie really doing with having an on-screen audience watching this happen? Are they just meant to be stand-ins for us as the viewer, or is Dupieux like actively punishing the act of spectatorship? Because what we see depicted from the audience, there's some like behaviors that yes, I don't enjoy from other audience members.
No, yeah, right. It like you get like they are kind of almost a secondary antagonist if we view the sheriff as the protagonist of the film, which is also kind of a weird take to have because I don't think he's a great guy either. But like the film buff guys like getting into arguments in the middle of things going on, people constantly talking, and then like the kind of chatter before the movie starts, and then like them being jerks to the kid, and then them getting really excited when she's in the shower and being like, yes, now this is a movie. Right. Like you see the audience doing all the problematic things that an audience does and they get punished for it. But then also you have the man in the wheelchair. You have Wings Hauser's character who is locked in, who is engaged with the film. And he also doesn't make it out. spoilers for
Yeah.
the
No,
end.
hey, the movie's
But
15 years old. Spoil
yeah,
away.
come on.
But yeah, so I wanted to ask you about that specifically because we get to the end and he's been sort of like the good audience member, the person that maybe I see I associate the most with, because definitely not the
Mhm.
sheriff. It's not Robert. It's this dude in the wheelchair who just
Yeah.
wants to watch the movie play out and see where it's going. So I'm like, okay, I'm on board with this guy. And then by the time we get to the end, he is now telling the producer or the director, like, this is how your movie should end. This is what it's missing. You should shoot him with a rocket launcher, light him up with a flamethrower, whatever. He's now crossed from what was impartial, interested observer to now, like, Monday morning
Critic.
quarterback critic.
Yeah.
And so that that adjustment, and then sitting outside and trying to be like, oh, I see Robert, like, I didn't, it wasn't me.
Yeah.
I'm not part of like whatever this is that's going on here. And then to get detonated in probably like the biggest explosion that we see
Mhm.
from all of the characters. It's like you're not even safe as that audience member. And I think it's sort of antagonistic, but do you think Rubber is funny because it's absurd or because it's antagonistic towards the viewer?
I guess that kind of gets at my at how masochistic. Right? No,
Yeah.
but no, I think it can be both. I think I laughed more at the audience maybe this time around
Mhm.
than I laughed at the absurdity of the film. But I do remember the first time I watched it, I was like sitting there. My roommate was doing some homework with his girlfriend, and the rabbit blows up, and I just like lost my mind. Lost my shit. I was like, this is hilarious. Like, this is okay. This is the kind of movie that I'm getting into. So I think there is humor in both the absurdity and the antagonism. But I think you've got to have the right, like, kind of getting back to what we were talking about with like why people think this is a bad movie. You've got to have the right, like, a receptive attitude to being made fun of as a member of the audience. You've got to be willing to laugh at the absurdities of the film to find it funny. And I think that's why sometimes you get that the bad reception is audiences don't like being made fun of. Um, for the most part, if you see yourself in a character and it's being portrayed in a negative light, you're usually going to get a little bit uncomfortable and maybe not be super happy with it. And I think watching yourself blow up or be poisoned or some combination of the two might not be a great feeling.
Yeah, it's like, hey, he's making fun of us.
Yeah. Wait, is this about us?
Yeah.
the euphoria meme. Right?
Well, I think that, like, it requires some patience, right? And I think even though I associated with the wheelchair guy pretty much up until the end, and even then being like, when he's like, oh, well, now you should just go in there and like just blow him up, like do this or do that. I'm like, yeah, like even him, I'm like,
yeah.
I get it. And then when he dies, it's still it's like Dupieux is still like, oh, you thought you were safe.
Mhm.
Well, screw you too. And
Yeah.
so I kind of like that. And it is a little bit antagonistic. And it sort of makes me laugh that, like, even though I've seen the movie multiple times, I've still gotten to the end, even though I maybe thought, hey, I have a better perspective, or I'm looking at it through maybe the correct lens this time. At the end, it's still like, yeah, and screw you too.
This guy's dead.
Yeah. And so, like,
he's a tricycle now.
Right. But like hearing the story of him like walking into his own movie and then being in the empty theater, it is like a weird thing where it's like, not only is he sort of telling the audience like, screw you, he's sort of like giving the middle finger to himself in that situation. And like, I don't need the audience, but I do need an audience because I'm a filmmaker. And like, if people aren't watching it, then at the end of the day, like, what's the
reason? Yeah,
exactly. What is the reason? And so I think the movie just, so much of what we've talked about is like the thematic elements of the film. It's not even like the stylistic stuff in the film, which I find to be like fairly engaging on its own merits, but how much the movie makes me think about what it's doing, I feel like is the sign of a good movie, even though I understand a lot of the criticism about it. It's,
Yeah.
I don't have these kinds of conversations about every movie. And this is the kind
Oh,
of
no,
movie,
yeah.
if I was like, hey, babe, come here, to have my wife watch this, she'd be like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Why am I watching this? It's that kind of movie. And if then I tried to like get into this deeper conversation of like, no, well, like the filmmaker he's telling me off. He's like, watch my movie, but actively angry at me at the same time for watching his movie. It's a very odd experience, but like, how many other filmmakers are going to do that? Like,
and like when you
you're
watch the
openly
movie,
combative.
yeah, when you watch the movie with somebody who's like, I don't want to watch this, it's like, yes, you get it. That's correct. You're in the right headspace. Now let's jump in.
Yeah, that's a good point. Well, let's jump into some trivia then. I think it's a good time.
Yeah.
Time for trivia.
Let's see. The first question off the board. So, as an English language French production, Rubber was shown during Critics Week at Cannes in 2010 and picked up for distribution by Magnet, but it didn't have a debut outside of France until July 9th at which film festival?
Ooh, July? Is that? I'm gonna be wrong. I'm gonna say Austin.
It was Fantasia.
Close.
Close.
I probably should have gotten that one.
Look, there wasn't that much trivia, so I had to like. These are harder than they probably should be because it's like, oh, how did they do this? So yeah, there's surprisingly not a lot of trivia given, I think, how much buzz this movie had for the reasons that we're talking about it. But let's go to question 2. So originally, Robert the Tire was written as a purely evil character, but Dupieux realized that there was nothing evil about a tire, and he reworked Robert to be more of a stupid dog character, including some influences from which 2008 animated film?
Wall-E.
Yes.
Gotta be.
That's the one. So yeah, like you could see that he's obviously observing this other sci-fi character and like how do you emote with a character like that and make it kind of stupid but kind of endearing and not good nor evil but just existing and trying to find your way in the world. So yeah, he said in an interview with Bloody Disgusting that he had watched that and sort of pulled some influences from Wall-E. So very cool.
That tracks. That opening sequence has a lot of Wall-E in it for sure.
Exactly.
Rolling around in the dust.
Okay, so then question number 3, third and final question. So the official soundtrack for the film is credited to Gaspard Auge and Dupieux, with Dupieux using his stage name as a musician. Do you know what that name is?
Yes, when I was looking stuff up for this movie, it's Mr. Weezo. It's French,
Yeah, and what's funny is that like in one of the criticisms that I read, or maybe it was an article about it, it sort of referred to him as a musician who's like trying to make movies. And I'm like, he's made a bunch of movies. I was like, he's an artist that happens to be making music and film, but it's like, so I felt like it was derogatory in the way that it was said, like, oh, he's a musician that doesn't know what he's doing, and like he fell flat for that reason. But he's one of the most interesting filmmakers I think that is working right now. I'm always excited to see what he's working on because all of his movies are going to challenge me in a very strange and unexpected way, and I can't say that for every filmmaker that's out there right now.
For sure.
Whether or not he's the best, whatever. I mean, that's not for me to decide, but
no.
He's a person who, when I see he's working on a new project, I'm like, I'm there. I don't care what it is. It's gonna make me think in the ways that some of these other ones won't. But yeah, like I said, there's not that much bonus trivia in general. At the end of the movie, when they roll up to the Hollywood sign as a crew, the number of tires is equal to the number of spectators, supposedly, who are killed over the course of the film. So like he's replacing them with sentient tires. And I mean, selfishly, I want to see Robert Goes to Hollywood. Like,
I would watch the sequel,
yes,
right?
Of course. It's never going to get greenlit, but you could do a Maximum Overdrive kind of slasher that's like a little bit more in line with the genre than this, as absurd as Rubber is. So
Yeah.
that's cool.
Kill a celebrity, see what a celebrity as a tire would look like, right?
Yeah, someone who has to now grapple with the fact that you're just a tire.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this movie was written in a month and just shot over 2 weeks in the California desert. And so one of the spectators, though, Daniel Quinn, starred in Scanner Cop and Scanner Cop 2 as a scanner who could make people's heads explode.
Amazing.
So it's a nice little like callback, obviously.
Yeah.
Dupieux is a student of the game. So that's the thing where it was like, oh, he's a musician. He doesn't know what he's doing. I'm like, no, he clearly understands the sandbox that he's playing in and is a fan. But he doesn't do homage in the way that a lot of sort of like loosely thrown together, haphazard, glad-handing homages have come to pass in the last like decade or so.
Yeah.
So yeah, I appreciate that like he knows his influences. He's done his homework. He wants to dabble in that realm, but he's not gonna just be like, oh, you know, here's like a shot from this other movie that I want to include.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you got 2 right. So let's go to the bonus wheel. And then hopefully, I don't know, there's some disgusting questions on there. Well, there's at least one. There's one really disgusting one, but I don't know. You may not be unlucky enough to be the recipient of that, but you got 2 spins off the wheel. So we'll see what you get. Okay. Wait, there it is. If you had to pitch a sequel for this movie right now, what is your absurd elevator pitch for Rubber 2?
Oh, it's Rubber Goes Hollywood. Absolutely. Like, do you want to see Brad Pitt's head blow up and then a rolling tire with Brad Pitt's personality?
Yes.
I certainly. And then we can ask the question of, do all these tires just have human personalities, or are they also all psychokinetic? And then is it a cult that they all worship Robert the Tire?
Yeah.
Or is he perhaps a pariah because he's got 3 wheels?
Yeah. No, I mean, there's so many things that you could.
Do they all seek to ascend to tricycleness now, right? Like, are they all trying to get themselves killed so they can become the next thing?
Yeah. Do they just reincarnate into like the next closest thing that can roll around? So it's like one of them ends up becoming like a car.
Yeah. Does he want to become a NASCAR?
I mean, he was watching.
Is that's got to be his goal, right?
Yeah.
I think that's his why in this new movie is he wants to be NASCAR.
Well, there's a question on here that I didn't spin, but the question is, if you were going to cross this movie over with another movie's universe, what would that movie be? And so you mentioned Brad Pitt, and he just did F1 the movie, but the movie that came to mind for me was Herbie the Love Bug.
Please,
Herbie versus Robert.
Yes, give me another sentient.
Yeah, exactly.
Object, right.
Herbie is he's sentient, right? I mean, like maybe not as evil.
Yeah. Rubber in the Cars universe is a much scarier.
Oh yeah.
Because like, oh, my feet want to kill me now.
Yeah, that could be a lot of fun though. I mean, would never happen, but
no.
Okay.
Come on, Pixar.
Yeah,
make the call.
Let's go to that next question off the wheel. So you have to sell this movie on one scene only. So what scene are you going to pick that makes this movie?
I think it's got to be for me. Like the scene that I always go back to is the scene when it blows up the rabbit, and I just like realizing that it is a horror film, but also kind of silly, and also not like the highest amount of horror. And there is I like that scene a lot. I think you could also make an argument for like that final the mannequin scene of like her talking to him through the mannequin and the director switching out. If you want to like lean more into the comedy of it, but I think for me it's the rabbit scene. I think that's the scene that does it for me. That I like. All like when I think about Rubber, that's the scene I think of. Which is kind of wild because The Crow is the one that's like in all the media. Yeah. But
he's right there on the poster. Where is it?
Yeah.
Which side? This one.
Yeah,
right
he's right over there.
It's a little bit tough to pick like which individual scene I would really want to go with. I would think maybe maybe when the housekeeper finds him in the shower, because that plays with like all of the elements of the film, and that
Yeah.
he feels human enough. He watched somebody take a shower, so now he's taking a shower. The unsuspecting person comes across him being like, "Oh, what were the weirdos who rented this room doing with the tire in the shower?"
Mhm.
Sickos, tosses the tire out, and then we also see the murder,
The killing
right?
of, yeah.
Yeah. And then that, even when the sheriff is sort of like telling the rest of the crew, like, okay, the jig is up,
We're
all the
done.
audience is dead. Yeah, we
Yeah.
don't have to worry about performing anymore. When he's talking to his deputy and he says, like, slap her in the face.
Yeah.
He's like, give her a slap. And she's
Just
like,
give her-
Sheriff, she's got no head. And he's like,
Got
just
no head. Just
jiggle her around a little
jiggle her
bit. You'll
around.
see. Like that moment in the film where like they're having to play with the notion of like people involved in it don't know that it's fake, where he's getting shot by his deputy as well, and he's like, don't feel a thing.
Yeah.
He's bleeding. Don't worry about that.
This is
There's
fine.
nothing to be concerned with.
Yeah.
Like all that stuff at that point in the movie I could see as like, if you were just starting to get a foothold on what the movie is and then you end up at that point, that was the moment the first time I watched it where I was like, what the fuck is going on?
Yes.
What is happening?
Where you're like, oh, what, why? Hold on. Was I supposed to be caring more about the audience members than I was?
Right? Yeah, I was like, okay, I did not have this movie pinned down.
Mhm.
I was incorrect. I need to watch it again. But that's a good feeling. But let's go to the wheel for just one more bonus question for fun.
Let's do it.
Which minor character from this film deserves a spin-off, and what would that spin-off be about?
Ooh. I mean, most of the minor characters die, so I mean, I guess you could do a prequel about Wheelchair Man if you wanted to, but I don't know what that would really be about.
Yeah, that's fair.
I would also watch a prequel of how the like accountant guy, the little glasses dude,
Mhm.
gets involved with the sheriff in making the movie. Like, how does he become a lackey to this guy to the point that he's like actively poisoning people? I would watch that, like that prequel film. I think that would be fun.
Yeah, I could go for some more sheriff. I mean, he's like the most well articulated character in the film besides Robert. So I would
Yeah.
like to see like how he got involved with this whatever project it is. How did you get involved in this filmmaking experiment in the desert and any of that? That's my spin-off idea. But at least we would get more Steven Spinella, and
Yeah.
he's very good in this. Okay, let's go to more or less. You tell me one thing that you want more of in the film and one thing that you want less of.
I think I want more Sheila. I think I want more of her character. Maybe not, but I think so. That's kind of where my jerk reaction was. Like when she shows up, it feels like a very pivotal moment, but then she like disappears for the entire second act of the film. Like once she goes to her room, and then she shows back up for the third act. So it's like, I guess I want more of her. I mean, obviously she's not the main character, but for her to come back and play the role that she does in the finale, I think I want a little bit more of her. Less, I don't know. There's not a whole lot I would take away. Probably when I was first thinking about it, I was going to say less of the wheelchair guy, but I think through our conversation that we've had, I think he's a very important character to like the crux of what the film is really kind of getting at. So maybe just fewer chairs to get run over. Give me less of those. One fewer. The rest are all good.
Yeah, I had to think about this one because I think I would want more of Jack Plotnick, who is the accountant, and so maybe not a fully fledged spinoff, but like we get this moment with him where he's he's the guy with the turkey in his room. So he
Yeah.
cooks the turkey, poisons it, gives it to the ravenous crowd of onlookers who just greedily consume this turkey with no second thought. And then he has to try to bribe the wheelchair bound guy with a nicer meal, right?
Yeah.
To which he then starts eating, knowing that it's poisoned, but like couldn't help himself. But while he's dying, he confesses his brother's murder.
Yeah.
Like he bashed his head in with a rock, and it's like, whoa! Like, so I feel like that character is like fun and has some interesting stuff going on behind the scenes. I don't know how much more you could get out of it, but there might be enough there for a fully fledged like spin-off or prequel story.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know if I caught that the other times I watched it. I'm like, oh, is he
Right.
Did he really just talk about murdering
Hold
his
on.
brother? Yeah, with a rock.
And it's like, oh, okay, maybe, but the sheriff isn't a sheriff. Like, what are
Yeah, but he has
So then-
deputies that are really
that
they
are
think
real
they're deputies. Yeah,
So, is that how he got Plotnick's character to work for him? Does he just like hold that over him that he knows?
it's almost as if the movie takes place within like a bubble that aliens have created,
Yeah.
and that's what's happening. Like that's the sort of the best way I can explain it, because nothing makes sense inside of it. It's like their interpretation of a movie.
Mm-hmm.
And it, like, you know, nothing is happening outside of this little bubble in the desert. Like nobody else is passing through. It's just everybody that's within this radius. And yeah, I mean, I feel like that's at least a solid way to explain it. But I guess what I would want more of is, yeah, probably more Sheila. I feel like if she's in it too much, we border on crossing over from the voyeuristic aspect to sort of like an actual romance. And then it's like, well, now we're cheering for Robert. How does she actually fall in love with a tire? But like some of the posters
It
have
become
her
we go like
posing.
B
Yeah,
movie with it a little bit.
yeah, you could.
The B movie. Sorry, where she
Yeah.
falls in love with a bee.
Yeah. You go that ridiculous, but like some of the advertising material, she's like
Mhm.
kind of like posing, I don't know, like sexy with it, I guess I would say.
Right.
She's like leaning against it in a suggestive way. And so some of that is like she's kind of on the road and is a loner. He's on the road and is a loner. And so like there's some elements of that at play. But she has one of my favorite moments in the whole film is when she's in the back of the van with the sheriff and they're going through. She's like, I can't read this. It's so stupid. And then she says at one point, like, who wrote this garbage? And you see the sheriff like quickly sort of like look over embarrassed that like, oh crap, I wrote that.
Yeah.
And so like not to acknowledge her, but that she's like, I can barely make it through reading this dialogue. It's so bad. And
Right.
so it's another sort of like fourth wall, maybe not a break, but like a crack in the fourth wall to be like, you may be thinking to yourself right now, who wrote this garbage?
Mm-hmm.
A
No,
little
that's
self-flagellation on
that was a really
Dupieux's part.
good scene. The back of the van is crazy. The guy's like, "What? I think you talking is weirding him out. You got to switch back."
I know. She's like, I can't read it. This is so dumb. And then, okay, I'll take over. Like, you give him enough credit to, like, you know, be at a distance from Robert.
Mhm.
But then it's like, let's just roll a mannequin out there with a voice box. And then, oh, we're not even going to be consistent in our approach to that. But it's like those moments, I think, are much more aware of the fact that they're funny and they're not relying as
Yeah.
much on sort of situational humor. I mean, obviously the situation is kind of funny, but like the writing is very intentionally funny in those moments. And so I feel like in a moment like that, you don't have to be as patient with the
Mhm.
humor. And I think that's a good thing because the movie does need some like actual humor to,
Like,
to
hey,
help you out
laugh
and
at
reward
this.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's like we can't just like beat you over the head with like literally no reason for the entire runtime. And so that's why I'm like, I understand wanting to toy with that idea, but I think he's too smart of a filmmaker to literally be able to sort of execute
Yeah.
a completely no reason film. I don't think he actually wants to do that. He was just interested in the concept.
Yeah, I don't know. I think an actual No Reason movie is just bad. Is that movie 43? Is that?
I mean, we've seen movies like that,
Yeah.
where like things don't happen, but like in the examples, right, where he's like, oh, in like a lover story, like why do the two characters fall in love? No reason.
No reason.
It's like, no, that's like the entire reason is the movie is that. So like the sort of having a character or having an idea where it's like we're fully invested in this idea, but also we're completely wrong about our understanding of this idea. I think it's a very fun place to start the movie, and it's probably something you need a couple of watches to get through,
like get the fullness of.
You got to get through the outer layer of like this is just like too weird of a starting point. And then once you get that and you kind of understand what the movie's doing a little bit, yeah, like I said, it's the problem solving for me that is fun. But was there anything that you had specifically in your notes that you like really wanted to make sure that we got a chance to talk about that we didn't get a chance to talk about yet?
I wanted to shout out Charlie Kuntz. Shout out to Neil from Community.
Neil.
Cameo as it's one of the guys. C-lister in Community too. But as a Community lover, that was fun for me. I wonder how intentional the makeup of the audience was. Of like, hey, we've got film buffs, we've got a dad and son, we've got these like two teenage girls, we've got this older black woman, and we've got the wheelchair guy.
There's like there's film bros in there, and then there's like some younger girls too who are just, they're
and so it's like
chatty.
How did, again, going back to that, like this is a bubble of aliens, how did this crew end up in this place with the etiquette that they have at the movie, right? Like,
I don't know. Sometimes I go to the movies and there's always a line of people out there for some screener.
Yeah,
it's that audience right there. They're like, hey, I want to watch a free thing.
Like, hey, movie, all right, let's go.
But like, not even mentioning that this is happening over multiple days and that they have to like sleep outside in the desert in sleeping bags. They don't have food and they don't have water and
no bathroom.
It's insane. But like the lengths that people will go to either just like get the free thing or to be first in line for something, like there is something there. And I think having the sort of the good blend of the audience, it definitely makes it more engaging to watch that group together.
Yeah. Do you think so like in the credits when they show that he like gives the monologue and it like gives you the different angles, it shows you that he's not talking to anyone. Is that because he's done this multiple times, or is it because there's actually not an audience there at the beginning?
It's a good question. Because
that's something that I'm wrestling with.
Had I not like read that little like anecdote about Dupieux walking into his own audienceless movie, I think the audience just ends up being kind of like irrelevant. Like we talked about it. Like if you're making a movie for nobody, who are you ultimately making it for? Like if a tree falls in the woods and no one is there to hear it, does it still make a sound, kind of thing? And so I think having experienced that, Dupieux has to probably take that into account and be like, wow, am I really making movies for no audience?
Yeah.
And if that's the case, like how do you sort of address that in a productive but also artistic commentary kind of way? And so having seen the audience like in the first run when that scene is portrayed, right? We see the audience there, we see him talking to them. They got all the binoculars and everything. That's how it starts, right? So it's like it can be interpreted as like, oh, is this dress rehearsal? Like you said, is this something that happens all the time and he goes through this spiel every time they're going to do something out here? Is the audience really just like a ghost in this sense? And I think it's probably more closer to that. That whether or not there is an audience, the intention behind why he's making the film is not going to change. And so like I don't know. I feel like that sort of just it adds up a little bit more given all the other things that we talked about.
And then like, if there is no audience, then that suddenly makes like the turn in the middle even more interesting. Of okay, they're gone, right? But they were never there to begin with, right?
No.
But then also, how does the wheelchair guy show up?
Yeah. Well, I just feel like it's asking sort of interesting questions about like the nature of making things for an audience. Like, would you do things differently? Because obviously he could have done things differently. I'm sure he's heard complaints about this movie, right?
Yeah.
It could have been a traditional B horror movie. Could have been all the things that a lot of the naysayers probably said about it. But instead, like, he just stayed true to himself and ultimately was like, well, I don't care if the audience is not necessarily here for this movie. I have to do the kind of thing that I want to do, and sort of like staying true to his artistic principles. And so I think it can be interpreted that way. I mean, it's obviously included at the end there for a reason.
For a reason.
Yeah.
And I think also like narrative consistency is not necessarily as important in this kind of like absurdist film, right? So
yeah,
there's that level to it too, right?
Yeah, and I think like, for the most part, things will find their audience over time. It just it may take a lot of time, and so making it for like the abstraction of an audience, like the concept of an audience versus I'm making it to sell tickets with this particular audience. Like there's a ton of analytics and marketing that go into like demographic research for the specific purposes of like, how do we make our money back on a movie like this? Who are we selling it to? All that. Like, that's the business side of things. But like the artistic side of things, I think has to ask the question of like, if there's no audience, like, is it still worth making the movie? And I think the answer to that in this case is probably yes. Yeah. And like, here we are. So the movie obviously found its core audience at some point and was kind of well received at the time. But probably a good time to go to Critics Corner.
Yeah.
Then we can transition. Actually, right. Look at that. I'm getting good at these segues after 5 seasons.
You would think.
Okay, well, 59 overall Metascore, not too bad. But we start at the bottom as always, and this is from actually Movie Line magazine, where my mom was formerly the general manager. Whoa! I don't know if I've ever read a Movie Line quote on here.
What a world!
It's my mom's birthday tomorrow, actually, so kind of a weird full circle moment. Okay, 25 out of 100. Stephanie Zacharek, name I don't recognize, says Rubber could have been a modest horror novelty, a wicked, malevolent version of the Red Balloon. So yeah, this is what the movie could have been based on what I want from this movie, and that's you can't meet the movie there because that's not what this movie does.
I think anytime you have an absurdist movie, you can't go in projecting your expectations onto it, right?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, those are wise words for every movie.
Just
don't go in expecting anything and you'll never be disappointed.
Every time I've gone in with low or no expectation to a movie, I always come out enjoying it more than the average like audience score says that I should, right?
It's really weird. Like when I was younger, I used to go in excited about movies all the time. And usually I didn't walk out like, oh my God, I'm like devastated. But the only times I've really had sort of like experience where I'm like, wow, that was not at all kind of what I was hoping for were movies that I had really big expectations for in the last like 10 years or so. And so I don't know. I just made a decision. I'm like, no more. I will go in with interest and that's it. And most of the time, that's why it's like, if you look at my letterbox, I like everything. There's like five movies a year where I'm like, didn't work for me.
Yeah. And when you go in looking for a movie to be the Red Balloon, like, what are we doing? Yeah. This is still a B horror movie, right?
Yes, exactly. Yes, be very careful there, Stephanie. This is why Movie Line went out of business, is stuff like this, right? Okay, so let's see. We've got 3 40s on the board. Yes, Hollywood Reporter, Variety, and Time Out. So you can pick your poison. Which one do you want to hear from?
Let's go Variety.
Variety.
I tend to just like dislike them. So
yes, well, this probably is not going to help. Leslie Felperin says neither scary, funny, nor anywhere near as clever as it seems to think it is. Picture offers audiences few reasons to want to see it beyond its one joke premise. Yeah,
maybe we're both just dumbasses.
Maybe we are.
Maybe we're just dumbasses.
Huge dumbasses. Look, I mean, I've been called worse things, I think. So,
Right. Oh, for sure.
whatever. I disagree, Leslie. I'm sorry. I couldn't maintain an hour and a half long conversation about a movie that I felt was worthless in the way that you think it is. So,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but let's see. We've got the AV Club. Hey, Scott Tobias. Read Scott. I've interacted with him on Twitter before. It says, while it's admirably perverse for a quote unquote killer tire movie to be this snooty, it's about half as clever as it thinks it is. So another one that's like, this movie's not clever.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so I don't know. These are not the people. This is not the audience.
Yeah, I think it's people just like, maybe I think, did they want it to be more about nothing? Did they want it to actually be no reason?
I don't know. I feel like I need to read that entire review, but I also don't want to.
Yep.
Okay, let's climb the board. We'll skip over the 60 because that's not a big enough bump, but we'll go to the Austin Chronicle. This is 67 from Mark Savlov. I don't think I've ever read a positive review from Mark.
Yeah,
on
I was going to say that's a
ever.
high mark.
Yeah, every time I read him, it's like this is either a yellow or a red colored review, and so he gave it a 67. Said it is in effect a movie house meta mirror, warped and weird, strange but true. In parentheses, except when it isn't. It's whatever you want it to be, which doesn't necessarily make it a great movie. Parentheses, although it contains moments of greatness, but it is, by virtue of its premise alone, boldly unique.
Yeah, correct.
Yes, I'll take it. I like the it's
feel like
whatever.
The number's kind of low.
Yeah,
but
right. I know it's kind of glowing review. That's what I'm saying. Mark, he just can't do it. He can't bring himself to
he can't love a movie.
Not any of the movies we talk about on this show.
Is he in the wrong line of work?
Maybe. But I do like the it's whatever you want it to be, which doesn't necessarily make it a great movie. Right.
Yeah.
But it contains moments of greatness. And I think, yes, you have to meet the movie on its level. And if you want more out of it, it's there. If you don't want more out of it, you can walk away from it. And I think there was a chance the first time I watched it where I'm like, I don't know what's going on. Killer tire movie. Okay. And there was a chance that it burned me and I never came back to it. But for some reason, I was just fascinated by it and the performances are good. And I just kept coming back to it to the point where 15 years later, here we are.
Yeah, it sticks with you. And
16 years later, my goodness, it's 2026.
Yeah, wow,
what am I talking about?
We're old. What's going on?
Okay, so we've got IndieWire in with an 83 and New York Times in with an 80. So I'll let you pick one of those before we go to the final one.
Okay, let's hear from IndieWire.
IndieWire. Eric Cohn says Dupieux's utterly zany slice of narrative subversion transcends that singularly goofy premise to create one of the most bizarre experiments with genre in quite some time. Hey.
Yeah, nailed it.
All right, Eric, I like that. I gave it 83 out of 100. That's good. And then we're gonna close it out with a review that is unattributed. So there's no name attached to this. So this is for like the whole audience, I think. But it's the Village Voice gave it a 100. Says an essay on storytelling and spectatorship within When Inanimate Objects Attack Schlock, one infused with the haunting aura and disillusionment of a post-Easy Rider Road movie. Rubber is some kind of miracle.
Shout out to the Village.
Well done, Village Voice. Got 100 actually on the board for the first time. Yeah. There you go. We started with a 25 and ended with 100. That's this movie right here.
That is the range that this movie will take you through.
Yeah, and I mean, it's cool to see that it's not just us that can sort of see the things that we want to see in it. And it was also good to see that there's definitely people that don't think the movie is clever in the way that it wants to be. But I think also those people are probably not enjoying the humor of the movie, I would say.
Yes, I think that's probably true.
You have to have fun with it in order for the mechanism to like work. If you can't laugh at it, then it is stuck in this sort of like experimental B horror schlock that you're like, well, this isn't funny. oh well, then yeah, you're gonna have a hard time with
Yeah.
this.
Sorry, dude.
Yeah, sorry. At least it's not that long though. It's only like an
Yeah.
hour and 18 minutes. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Tight watch.
yeah, exactly. Perfect for when I started at like 9 o'clock, and I'm like, oh, I'm getting sleepy. But yeah, look at that. In bed before 10:30.
You love to see it.
Okay, so we're gonna go to the gateway drug movie because this is where we're gonna give recommendations for people who may be intrigued enough to push play on Rubber because of this conversation, but they need a little encouragement. So what is a good launching pad type of movie to get them over the hump to watch Rubber?
So this is I was thinking about this, and I was going through like, all right, what are some like gory, like telekinetic horror movies? What are some like horror movies with inanimate objects or monsters as the villain? And I was like going through, and I was like, that's not really what makes this movie difficult to approach. What makes this movie difficult to approach is the fourth wall, the storytelling of it. And so I ended up on Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
Okay,
which is
I like that.
a movie that contains elements of them making the movie in it, right? Like, and does not have a satisfying ending, and kind of notoriously devolves in the third act because of the indie way that it was made. And has some similar story beats, if like in kind of the ways that the protagonists are just going around wrecking stuff for themselves or for no reason, and leaving a lot of bodies in their wake, right? That's kind of a running gag in that movie, and it's a more much more universally acclaimed movie.
It's a good pick. I had some things in mind, but I was like, these are also like equally as sort of in the camp of this movie
Yeah.
as this one. So I think I'm torn between two. There's one that's like the one I want to say is Birdman.
Ooh.
Which is like a tongue-in-cheek movie. It's an absurdist but headier absurdist comedy about film and filmmaking and criticism and how that affects the people that are involved in it. And it's a more narrowly scoped and maybe better executed and better cast film.
Yeah,
by
for
I
sure.
mean, it won Best Picture. Like,
Yeah.
is no slouch.
It's all right. It's all right.
Exactly. So
Somebody liked it.
If you can accept that movie is playing in the same sandbox, but maybe just making something that's more appealing, then you might be able to watch this. The other one, if you want to like stay silly and stupid, I would say Swiss Army Man, because that at the time that I first watched it, it's like the Daniels were not the guys making Everything Everywhere All at Once at the time, and had not was also Best Picture winner. So I think Swiss Army Man is the movie that it's like on the surface, it's the farting corpse movie.
Yeah, it's the farting corpse movie,
but it's a lot more than that too. So I think that's probably a good one that is maybe a little bit more in the mainstream.
Yeah. Closer to the absurdism, but I like both of those. Those are it's good.
I know. I need a whole like absurdist like playbook of like, here's all the absurdist movies that I want to watch and make sure that I get through it.
Get to them before,
right? Yeah.
70.
Well, before they get removed from streaming services.
Yeah.
And
oh my gosh.
You have to work really hard to find Rubber somewhere. You can watch the German version of the movie. Well, German subtitles, I should say, in English, through Internet Archive, if you really want to look. And then, of course, if you want to just like buy it, then you can probably do that too, because physical media is important these days.
Maybe your library has it. Check that out.
It's a good one. I know. There's a video store that I found that's near me that I need to check out.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah,
that's clutch.
It's like I think it's called Be Kind Video. They're not paying me for that, but maybe one day they will. Okay. Well, speaking of plugs,
make the call.
Yeah, right. I know. Speaking of plugs. Where can people find you? How can they get in touch with you if they want to talk your ear off about Rubber, or if they want to tell you that you are wrong about this movie?
Oh, yeah. So Instagram is where my like blogs exists and where like my biggest amount of film interaction probably happens. But you can find me at Watch This Film Blog, all one word, just like it sounds. On Instagram, there's a link in the bio to my blog where you can read reviews of the movies that I've gotten to so far in my countdown, plus a few more contemporary reviews. And then I've done some lists of actors and actresses, like my top 50 that people voted on, and so narrowed it down to like a top 10. If you want to read any of that, you can also just find that. It's wtfilm.org. Shout out to Squarespace. Again, I'm not sponsored, but I give them money, in fact. You know how that is. And then I'm also I'm on Blue Sky. I think I still have a Twitter account that exists, but the app is not on my phone at the moment.
Fair.
For reasons. But you can find me on Blue Sky. It is ev-mansur, mansur.bsky.social. I talk some movies over there. I talk some sports over there. Mostly just kind of talk about what I'm watching and what I think is going to happen in the world of the NFL and or NCAA at any given time. But yeah, if you're mad at me and you think that I was wrong for choosing this movie, please let me know. If you enjoy it, if you want to watch this movie with me, maybe give it a few months, but but I'll rewatch it. But yeah, or just want to talk. Any of those, I usually try to respond to DMs pretty promptly. Sometimes I have to take some time because I have a 6 month, well, almost 7 month old. So playing dad a lot these days, but yeah, would love to talk.
Well, congratulations, first of all.
Thank you.
Thank you even more so for making the time for this. I know it is challenging when you've got a young one in the house like that. And of course, for anybody that's listening, I will make sure that all of that information is easily accessible with the tap of a finger or the click of a mouse in the show notes. So you don't have to look too far for it. And yeah, this was a lot of fun. Hopefully we can do it again for one of those other movies you submitted. I got to look back at the list and see what else is on there. Yeah. But I'm sure we'll have fun again.
Oh, for sure. Appreciate it, Nick. It's great being on here. Love talking.
Have a good night.
You too.
A huge thanks to Everett for coming on the show. It's been a long process of me trying to get somebody to talk about this movie. And so when I finally put up the bat signal, Everett answered the call. And I didn't want to wait any longer. I didn't want to push this back. It's an awesome episode. It's an awesome movie. So I just did it. You can find Everett talking about movies on Instagram at Watch This Film and his blog, wtfilm.org. And I'll put all of the links for all that stuff into the show notes for you. So you just click it and it takes you right there. If you want to spend more time together and get access to the exclusive Resistance Frontlines members-only episodes, plus access to the Discord server, automatic entry into giveaways, which is a fun one because we do giveaways periodically. Sometimes it's movies, sometimes it's cash, sometimes it's gift cards. You'll be automatically entered into all those contests if you sign up. So make sure to look at the show notes for sign-up details. This closes out February here at the show, but I still owe you a Bad Movies Monthly, and I'm going to be doing that for both January and February, and I'm going to just cram it and push it out tomorrow. Keep your eyes and ears peeled for that one. So if any of that stuff sounds appealing, make sure to tune back into the show for the rest of February and the rest of 2026. I know time is valuable, so thank you for spending your time listening to Bad Movies We Love. Until next time, stay safe, be good, do good, watch movies. Take care, everybody.